what are the consequences, and I wonder if you could speak to that for us.
I'd be happy to. The first thing I think it's important to say, Representative, is that the preparation of our youngsters for college and career is the goal here. And what we ought to be doing is offering explanation about the necessity of this move towards the Common Core, why these high standards are important, and why we're introducing these new assessments on an optional basis to school districts. They may opt in or opt out of Smarter Balance, and in a low stakes environment, so that there ought to be lower anxiety around the taking of the tests. So I think it's important to begin with that the anxiety ought to be low. The tests essentially don't count for the key purposes that they've counted for historically. We need to provide for experiences for youngsters and for educators to engage with the new assessments as they engage with the standards as a whole. There is no provision in federal law, and there is no provision in state law for opting out of the tests. Whether districts need to be as caring as they can in looking at specific scenarios that parents present, that youngsters present, that's a question for districts to contemplate. The federal government requires a 95% participation rate of every state regarding annual assessments. That's a provision that stems from No Child Left Behind and continues even in the era of the waivers from NCLB. So that's my set of responses for you, Representative.
Well, thank you, Commissioner. Just with all due respect, I'm not sure that we have an answer yet, because it's clear that you are trying to create a low anxiety environment. Nevertheless, for whatever reasons, and I won't make a judgment on that, there still appears to be a lot of anxiety. And with that anxiety comes the desire on the part of a lot of parents to choose not to have their children take the tests. And so their question remains, is there a consequence for them or for their children if they do not take the tests either now or forever? And so is that a question? I understand there's no provision in the law. The law does not require it. It does require the districts to administer the tests. But what is the answer for these parents who want to know if there are consequences?
Well, consequences can be institutional and they can be individual. You know, on the individual level, I don't believe that there's any specific provision in law regarding consequences. But on a district-by-district basis, there needs to be a conversation on that front as to whether there are policies that are not state-based. To my knowledge, there are no state provisions that are specific or federal provisions that are specific to an individual parent or an individual student. Having said that, there are broader consequences. The 95% participation rate, which is a federal law, does exist, and there have been cautions that have been presented to other states when they have flagrantly provided for policies that are contrary to that law, or contemplated policies that are contrary to that law. Whether there would be funding consequences to Connecticut if we were to flagrantly establish an opt-out procedure or some other consequence, I don't know the answer to that, but I know that other states have been cautioned by the feds in the past around having explicit policies of this kind.
But if I were to, as a representative, respond to a constituent individually, there are no consequences for you or your child, would I be correct?
I think I've answered that question by explaining that I don't believe there's an explicit provision in law at the federal or state level, but I can't answer for a school district. We are in a local control state where requirements are imposed at the local level and procedures exist at the local level. I believe that's precisely how I've answered the question.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. I would ask folks who are here from the public to please keep it down.